The bridge spanned the chasm like a scar across the planet's broken surface. Below it, molten rivers of crimson and gold flowed endlessly, casting flickering light against the jagged rocks. I had 9 hours. 9 hours to hold it. 9 hours to buy time for the evacuation of the last human colony on Vera 9. And 9 hours to survive against an enemy that had never failed before. The first hour was quiet. Too quiet. My squadron of 20 was scattered along the bridge, firing suppressive shots at drones that tried to test our lines. I moved from cover to cover, listening to the hum of the emergency generators beneath the bridge plates. The air was thick with heat, tension, and the faint metallic scent of blood. It had started 3 days ago when the alien armada arrived in orbit. They called themselves the Crithians, and their reputation stretched across the stars. They were ruthless, efficient, and terrifyingly intelligent. Their warlord, Zyra, had never lost a battle in a recorded millennium. Entire worlds had fallen to her personally. When her flagship descended from the clouds, Vera 9 trembled. I was a field commander, yes, but I had been chosen for this mission not because of rank, but because no one else could hold the bridge. It was the last choke point between the Crithian landing forces and the civilian evacuation transports. If we failed, the colony, and thousands of lives, would be extinguished. By the second hour, the first wave struck. Crithian soldiers were faster than humans, but the bridge's narrow width neutralized their advantage. I had fortified barricades, set automated turrets, and rigged explosive traps beneath the bridge plates. They came in relentless waves, their voices a series of clicks and hums that grated on the mind. We killed them. We held the line. The third hour brought new horror. The Crithian drones adapted faster than we could anticipate. They began exploiting weak points in the barricades, overwhelming our automated defenses. Casualties rose. My squad, once 20, dwindled to 12. I felt the weight of every life on my shoulders. Every scream etched itself into my memory. And then, a warning came through comms: scans detect flagship in the atmosphere. Warlord is descending. I froze. Not because I feared death, fear had long left me, but because I understood what that meant. Zyra did not send soldiers. She did not command from afar. She came. She came to test, to break, to make an example. To kill me personally. By hour 4, the air crackled with tension. The sky split with energy as her flagship descended like a black god, wings spreading across the horizon. The bridge shook with the blast of her landing engines. My squad tried to hold position, but panic was creeping in. I moved to the center of the bridge. I needed a vantage point. I needed to see her. When she stepped onto the bridge, time slowed. Zyra was larger than any human could comprehend. Her armor was organic, pulsating, alive, shifting with an iridescent sheen. Her eyes, 4 of them, luminescent and sharp, swept across the battlefield. And in that gaze, I understood that the fight was no longer just physical. It was psychological. She spoke, not in words, but in resonating tones that rattled the mind. The bridge vibrated with her presence. Human, she said, and even her voice carried the weight of centuries. You are brave. Foolish. And soon, irrelevant. The 5th hour was chaos. Zyra advanced with a small contingent of elite soldiers. Every shot I fired seemed useless. They dodged, weaved, and countered before I even completed my aim. Explosions rocked the bridge, sending sparks and bodies into the molten rivers below. I realized then what holding the bridge truly meant, not just survival, but sacrifice. Every second I delayed her forces, more civilians escaped. Every second, I became less human and more of a symbol, an immovable wall against an unstoppable tide. By hour 6, I was alone. My squad had fallen. Their names, their faces, haunted me with every breath. I could no longer rely on tactics alone. I had to anticipate her movements, predict her choices, and fight against instinct as much as skill. Zyra approached. She moved with a fluidity that made every human motion seem clumsy. She raised a blade made of energy so bright it scorched the air. I raised my rifle, my hands trembling, not with fear, but exhaustion. We fought. Every clash of weapon against blade was a storm of sparks and kinetic force. I fired, she dodged. She struck, I blocked. The bridge itself became part of the battle, chunks of metal and stone exploding around us. By the 7th hour, I realized something terrifying. I could not beat her. Not alone. Not in any conventional sense. But I could survive. And survival meant more than holding my ground, it meant finding a weakness. Zyra paused mid-strike, studying me. Her voice resonated again, a low vibration that rattled my bones. Human, why do you resist? The outcome is inevitable. I spat back, blood on my teeth, sweat in my eyes. Because if I don't, millions will die. Her eyes flickered. A momentary pause, something I had never seen in a warlord who had crushed countless civilizations. Something almost human. The 8th hour was the most brutal. The bridge groaned under the weight of collapsing structures. Molten rivers surged, lighting the battlefield like a living inferno. I used every trick I knew, explosive traps, energy barriers, debris, to slow her advance. Every second counted. Every second, civilians in the distance drew closer to escape pods. I knew then that this fight was never about defeating her. It was about buying time. Every strike, every shot, every scream was a heartbeat. Every heartbeat kept the colony alive. And then came the 9th hour. Her energy blade cut through the final barricade, igniting the bridge in a storm of fire and sparks. I stumbled, pushed to my knees, my body aching with exhaustion and pain. She stepped over the broken barricade, towering above me. Her eyes locked on mine. Human, she said, voice low and vibrating, you have lasted longer than I expected. Why? I coughed, blood spilling from my mouth. Because, someone has to. Someone has to stop you long enough for them to live. Zyra tilted her head, studying me. And then, slowly, she stepped back. I have fought many who resisted, she said. But never one who understood sacrifice like this. I didn't move. I could barely breathe. I thought the end had come. But then, unexpectedly, she spoke again. Go, she commanded. Leave the bridge. Survive. Shock froze me. Every fiber of my being expected death. Expected a killing blow. But she lowered her blade. And with a wave of her hand, the remaining Crithian forces withdrew. I stumbled to my feet, unable to comprehend what had happened. Why? I whispered. Her 4 eyes softened, not human soft, but something that resembled respect. Because you were right, she said. Not every battle is about victory. Sometimes, it is about endurance. Sacrifice. And the lives saved in the process. I fell to my knees, tears mixing with sweat and ash. Around me, the bridge was ruined, bodies scattered, fire blazing. But below the molten rivers, evacuation shuttles lifted the last civilians into orbit. They were safe. She turned, raising her blade, and disappeared into the clouds with her forces. I stayed on that bridge long after the battle ended. Alone. Broken. Yet alive. News would later call it the miracle of Vera, 9. The story spread across human colonies. A single human, holding a bridge for 9 hours, against the greatest warlord in the galaxy. Lives saved. Hope restored. I never forgot the warlord's words. They haunted me. They inspired me. Not every war is won by killing the enemy. Some are won by standing when it would be easier to fall. By enduring when every muscle screams for surrender. By sacrificing for others when no one watches. I left the bridge a different person. Scarred, yes, but stronger. Hardened. Knowing that in a universe filled with gods and monsters, the greatest power is often the one we underestimate, human endurance, resilience, and the will to protect others, no matter the cost. And somewhere in the stars, I knew Zyra was watching. Not as an enemy. Not as a conqueror. But as someone who had finally understood the weight of sacrifice. The bridge was mine, until the Alien Warlord came. And in her presence, I became something more. I survived. The colony survived. And humanity, at least for now, had a chance.